Alrighty, we are live. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for our live video. My name is Gabby, joined here with three wonderful guests from all areas of Boys Town, and we're going to be discussing the October behavior slump. Before we do that, I want to remind everyone to give this video a thumbs up. And as we go through our conversation, if you have any questions for our experts, feel free to leave them in the comment section and we can answer live at the end with a Q&A. Otherwise, if you're watching this video later on, maybe tonight or in the next few days, and you have a remainder question, feel free to keep commenting and we see them all and can get back to you with any help that you may need. All right, well, welcome, ladies, to this live video. Bridget, to my side here, I'll go ahead and we go live together every month. But for those of you maybe from the training side who haven't met Bridget before, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about your role at Boys Town.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bridget Barnes. I'm the director for Boys Town's parenting program here in Nebraska. And there's lots of parentings across the country, but I run this one here, and I've been with Boys Town for several decades. We won't go into how many, but in various different capacities. So enjoy my job, enjoy working with parents, and with our lovely guests that we have here today. Super excited to talk to them about this important topic, and I'll throw it back to Courtney. She can introduce herself.
Very good. Thanks, Bridget. I'm Courtney Dealy. I'm the manager of our national training team, and I have been here for 1 decade, Bridget, so I'm working on catching up. I'm a former teacher and also foster parent. And so my team works with educators primarily around the country, and I'm really excited to be here with you all today.
Awesome. And then above me, we have Amber. Welcome, Amber.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Amber Schramm. I'm a clinical therapist at the Center for Behavioral Health here in Omaha, working with families, children and families in the Omaha area. I have not been at Boys Town quite as long as Courtney and Bridget. I think I'm going on my 4th year, so I love it here. Couldn't be happier with my position.
Awesome. Well, great to have all three of you on. We've got experts from all different areas, like I said, but we all work very closely together to help children and families both in the Omaha area and across the nation. So you might be thinking to yourself when you're watching this live, okay, they're talking about the October behavior slump. Well, what is that? So Bridget, let's define it first from a parenting perspective. What do you know about the October behavior slump?
Well, lots of parents in September are very excited, and kids are excited about going back to school. And then we see about mid-fall this kind of slump, or this where kids begin to be more comfortable in the classroom as we want them to be, but some of their behaviors become more evident and they begin to struggle a little bit in the classroom. And so we call that kind of an October slump. And lots of conversations around parent teacher conferences at that time when our kids begin to show these behaviors and begin to struggle in school. But Courtney, from your point of view, how do you see it?
So, Bridget, we see a really similar thing as well, that, the beginning of the year comes a lot of excitement and new, and we set up our classrooms, and as educators, we let kids know what we're wanting to see from them. And then this time comes and there's a little bit of a disillusionment. Some behaviors have cropped up. We're tired as teachers, grades are due soon. So it begins to be a lot of things that are happening at once. Amber, what about from your perspective?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I think from our clinic's perspective, this is the time of the year where we start to see an increase in referrals. And I think that can happen for a lot of different reasons, but from what similar to what you both said, the newness of school is starting to wear off, and we're starting to see some of those more typical behaviors that parents maybe see at home as well. They're getting some feedback from teachers on their child's behavior and looking for some extra support.
Yes, wonderful. How often should parents and teachers be in contact with one another about their child and student? Bridget, what would you say?
All the time? No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm kidding. Once a week is good enough, especially with the technology we have, right? I mean, And I'd like for it to be more positive and frequent. Like, I'm not always calling when there's a problem with the teacher. Sometimes I'm just calling to praise her, kudos to her, or, just to inform her about something that might be going on that affects my child's school behavior or their academic ability. But technology has put us in a position that we can frequently talk to teachers, not too much, don't over inundate them, but enough for them to feel comfortable and for you to feel comfortable speaking with them. How about you, Courtney? What are you thinking?
That's a really great question, and I appreciate your input on that, Bridget. We kind of think of the level of need that students have. So first, I'm going to go back to and agree with what you said. Start with positive. Anytime we can reach out first positively to our families, we're going to find that we're going to be able to better partner with them and pull them in on our side, because parents are the expert on their child. So we want to tap into that expertise and be able to partner together. So start with that proactive piece. And so, sometimes it's hard to reach out a lot to, if we've got, some people out there might have over 100 students. So I love Bridget's idea of leveraging the technology we have, because there are a lot of different platforms. And additionally, when a student needs more support, let's increase those contacts. That's super helpful. As a former foster parent, one of our kiddos had a lot of behaviors that we were all trying to work with together. And so from the parent end, our teacher gave us a lot of input and feedback and help, and we were really able to get further because as educator and parents, we partnered together. So one tip, and I'll pass it over. One tip that I sometimes give to teachers when it just seems so much to reach out to everybody is each week choose a number, maybe 5, and try to reach out to 5 families each week. And then after a little bit, you've gotten through everyone.
Yeah, I agree with both answers. I think the only thing that I would add is it's just so individualized. Each kid has their own needs, and so that's going to be the driving factor on how frequently we're having communication with teachers. The other message that I try to give parents is, if we're unsure about the type of communication we're getting from schools, just clarify. Are you just giving me some information about how my child is doing? Or are you looking for some extra support? Are you looking for some extra ideas? But instead of making the assumption, oh my gosh, that means I've got to do something about it. Teachers are the expert on behavior in their classroom. And so if they're asking for help, then they'll let you know. And if you're unsure, just clarify.
There's some great tips on our parenting.org site called School Success Email Series that kind of point to all the things that the ladies have shared with. And so if you didn't get all that down, you can go to that site and be able to get that email series from parenting.org, School Success Email.
Yes, definitely. I think so much of the time in August, Bridget and I talk on our lives and we're like, okay, we're going to do all these things with our kids at school. And then, now it's October and you're like, oh, I was meaning to review that email series or try and get in a good swing of things. And it's already almost the holidays. So just know that, if you're kind of feeling that way, there's always time and we always have those resources available. The next question is, when we think October behavior slump, a lot of that kind of correlates to burnout. So what are some key signs of student burnout and how can parents and teachers help prevent it? Courtney, what did you see as a former educator?
So I just think we see things, maybe papers not getting turned in on time or as frequently, and maybe some more of those behaviors cropping up. That honeymoon period is sort of ended. We might see a little bit more arguing from students. And again, depending on student need, like Amber had said earlier, we will see different levels of behaviors from kiddos. One of the ways that can kind of help is with this October time. A lot of times what we see when my team goes to schools around the country is that there's a lack of preventive, or let me say this, a reduction of preventive strategies that are used. Because at the beginning, we let kids know what our expectations are. We teach the rules and expectations and procedures. And then in October, it's like, well, I've told you this before. Why are we not doing this? And so I encourage teachers, as you are watching behaviors crop up and we think, I know I've taught them this before. I ask you to give yourself a just kind of a backup and a redo and teach them again. Because what we find is to help combat that burnout is to go back and reteach, because then both parties will feel less frustrated.
Yeah. And Bridget, from a parenting side, how can parents at home recognize that their child might be feeling a little bit burnt out at school?
Well, there's lots of things like Courtney says that you can see lack of motivation, lack of interest. They begin to maybe complain about physical health issues and I can't go to school, lack of creativity. If you had a kid who's very creative, and then, this slow decrease of their academic performance. I think what you can't always prevent it. You can try. We should try. We should give kids skills. We should give them the coping skills that they need and the social skills that they need to be able to do that. But we need to try to recognize it when we see it and not ignore it or think, oh, they'll get over it. And when we do begin to see that, provide them the support, emotional support, and the support from the school as well to try to reverse it. I think it's really important that parents are okay to help their kids build resiliency. The kids are going to fall, they're going to struggle. That's okay. That's not a problem. It's being able to get yourself back up and saying, okay, I'll dust myself off and let me try again. So being okay with that. It's okay not to be okay sometimes, and for you to be able to have that resiliency. How about you, Amber? What are your thoughts on the mental health part of this?
Yeah, I think, very similar to what you said, Bridget, that parents, they're the expert in their child, and they're going to be the best people to identify changes to their child's typical behavior, whether it be their mood, their performance, their timeliness. Oh, all of a sudden they're harder to get up out of bed and they don't want to get to school and they don't want to do their homework, right? And in terms of prevention, similar to you, Courtney, it's more about revisiting those routines and that structure that you already have in place at home and making sure that that's still consistently being upheld. And if there's some adjustments that need to be made, we're making those adjustments. We're being flexible with our child's needs. And then I also think that this might be a time, if we're recognizing some burnout, I guess it's not prevention, but beefing up some of those reinforcement systems that we have. Our kiddos are struggling with turning in our homework on time. All right, well, if at the end of the week we didn't have any late work, let's pick the family game night, something like that.
And can I add in one thing that connects with both what you all said? I think leading with empathy is really helpful too. And I think that applies both to teachers and also to parents. And that's kind of that emotional support, I think, Bridget, that you were talking about. Anytime we can think about from the student's point of view, or our child's point of view, that'll help us to kind of lift them up. It doesn't mean turning in late work is okay or misbehaving or doing a routine incorrectly at school. But to be able to say, yeah, I'm tired too. I get it. Here, let's figure this out together. Again, all parties are going to be a little bit more successful when we take that partnership approach and try to see it from the other person's point of view.
Outstanding. Great. Yeah. I
Mhm.
agree.
Yes, that's empathy first, leading with empathy. I love that. How should parents work with teachers when their child is displaying negative behaviors in the classroom? Courtney, I guess you would be first to notice those negative behaviors as a teacher.
Yeah. So do you want from a teacher point of view, or would you like from the parent? What are we thinking here?
Maybe you stay as a teacher, and then
Yeah.
Bridget, you want to add on what you would do at home as a parent?
As an educator, I think it's important to address these behaviors when they're small. First, with the kiddo, have the conversation, have that prevention conversation, catch them being good when they're not doing that negative behavior. Because the absence of a negative behavior is the presence of a positive behavior. So catch those moments and let them know and correct those behaviors when they're small, because otherwise they get bigger. And so additionally, if that's not working in the classroom, if you think, this, we need a little bit more because it's continuing, talk with the parents early. There's nothing like, as a parent, to get to that October conference and it's the first time they've heard about it. Parents do want to know. They do want to be able to support. And so that partnership is going to be really helpful. So let them know so that they can help you.
I'd be interested to hear from a parent point of view. As a parent, and I know you are, What do you do in regards to, having that relationship with your kiddos' teachers?
Oh, that's a great question. So, full disclosure, I have been on that parent end in October when I've been told about the iPad issue. Maybe many teachers and parents in this call can relate. And it was very shocking. It was disheartening because I didn't know ahead of time, and I could have been addressing it and try to support them. And so as a parent, I then checked in more frequently with teachers. How is
Hmm.
this going? Talked with the dean. My daughter's in high school now. And then was able to work with her on little things at home to try to make tech usage, to increase that self-control around tech usage. So that just getting that call, I got a call here a few weeks ago as a parent, just, hey, she's upset because of this. Then when my daughter texted me a quick text about what was happening, I had context. I could lead with empathy. I knew what was happening, and we could keep small things small. So from both sides, that
Hmm.
communication is so important ahead of time.
Yeah, I agree because establishing the regular communication that I mentioned earlier, don't wait until you're in trouble to talk to your teachers or vice versa. That creates that united front because when I used to work with education training and I would go into schools and teachers knew their kids. Hey, Johnny, your mom told me you got blah, blah. They knew who their kids were and the kids knew, oh, my mom. And there is a relationship there. And I think it's really important that parents reward desirable behavior. And when I say that, I don't just mean their grades. I mean them accepting responsibility, being honest, following the school rules, asking for help, getting along with others, those kind of skills that they need to be successful in a classroom because you can have a genius on your hands, but if they can't follow instructions, it's going to be a problem in the classroom.
So
So
right.
I think it's important for us to practice with children outside of school the expectation we have for them in the school. If they cannot follow instructions at home, they're probably going to struggle with that at school. So if your kid is struggling with following instructions, probably when he gets home with me, he would be practicing that skill at home. I would give them a few instructions and remind them this is what your teacher, Miss Courtney, wants you to do in the classroom. So I think that giving kids space, a safe space and time to share feelings is so important. Here at Boys Town, every day after school, family teachers are letting kids share their school experience. Someone's listening. And so when I would pick my kid up from school, we'd just go get a Coke at, the little store around the corner and I would listen. Sometimes he would say something and sometimes he would say nothing, but he knew I was there to hear him, right? And so establishing those kind of things with kids on a daily basis, I think really helps them deal with negative behavior so they really hear you and be able to change that, whether it's at home or at school. What do you think, Amber? Are you on our train here with these thinkings, or do you
Oh
have
my
another idea?
I was so happy, Courtney, you said catch them being good. Bridget, you're talking about, the progress, not perfection phrase that I use all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
We kids are constantly working on, keeping up with the expectations in their classroom, keeping up with the expectations at home. And of course, like you said, we're not always going to be perfect. We're going to fall short sometimes. And that's okay. And so let's praise kids for any semblance of the appropriate behavior that we were looking for. I was just thinking about a kiddo that I was working with the other day. He struggled to stay in the classroom for long periods of time. He's finally in there, and sometimes when he's given an instruction, he rolls his eyes, and that is not what we want. But you know what? He follows through with the instruction. And so let's praise that, right? We can ignore the eye roll for now, hope it goes away. And if it doesn't later on, we can address it. But we really want to give some praise for the parts of the behavior that they're doing well. And then the other thing that you said is, creating that consistency between home and school as much as we can, having the same type of expectations and consequences. And then from my perspective, if there are some coping strategies or skills that the classroom is, or the teachers are teaching in the classroom, how can we make that very similar and use that at home as well? So, yeah.
I had a question for you guys because I was reading when Courtney, she always sends me the list of questions, and try to look up what we say at Boys Town, what we say, what specialists have to say. And there was a conversation about, a lot of parents, if kids do something at school, there's going to be this negative consequence that's going to happen at home to them. And it's supposed to scare them, I guess, out of their behavior. But some professionals feel like that kids don't connect the two places that if I do something at school that if something's happening to me at home, how this is the different place and why is that happening. And I just wondered about you guys' take on that, because we do here at Boys Town have this understanding, like, I'm going to understand what's going on at school and we're going to teach you that at home. Teaching kids, is my take on that, versus I'm going to consecrate that out of you. What is your guys' take on this ideal of consequences that follow school behavior?
Yeah, if I can, I think well, it's an individual case by
Mhm.
case thing, but I also think it depends on the age of the child.
Mm.
If we've got a kindergartner or first grader who's done something at school, I'm pretty confident that the teacher can handle it right there in the moment. And with after school having that same type of consequence, that's a tougher connection. We've got a high school student now. We can probably have some consistency at home.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think it just depends on the developmental level of the child, the age, the severity of what happened at school, and all of that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of individualization that comes into it, Amber. Absolutely. I'm just looking at the level of need and support that a kiddo needs. But I think, connected to what Bridget says, I think it's important that the mindset is teaching. So, and also trust. We've got to trust that what's happening at the school, well, I'll say it from the teacher's perspective. It's important to trust that what's happening at home is that it is being taken care of that way, that I'm going to do what I can in my space and place, and that's all I can control, and that the home will take care of that home place. But that communication is really important. And so sometimes we've just got to trust that if a parent chooses to do teaching or chooses to add a consequence or not, that that's in that child's best interest, but always is that teaching mindset. And so as a teacher, just trying to teach for the next time, and as a parent, the same.
So when you are trying to encourage that teaching aspect of it, you know, from school to at home, how can parents and teachers really work together? Whether it's if there's negative behavior with the October slump, or maybe just continuing on a positive trail as well, kind of connecting the dots between parents and teachers. How can we do that?
I think from a teacher's perspective, one thing that can be done is just that clear communication. And I'm going to start with just kind of the universal. So maybe not even to individual families, but to say, this is what we're working on at school. Right now, we are working on this skill. We're working on the skill of working with others or accepting no appropriately. And so to let families know that, sometimes families will glom onto that, like, whoa, that's a good idea. Wait a minute, how did the teacher know? That's what we're struggling with at home too. And giving families that language allows them to be partners. And I know that a lot of our teachers in our trainings receive these skill and interaction cards where it has these 16 essential social skills that we teach kiddos, plus a lot more than just the 16. But I know a lot of families will get their hands on these social skills and say, this is just what I needed. So that communication and sharing is really important, because families are trying, and when we're all trying in the same direction, we're going to get further. Amber or Bridget, what about you?
Well, I love it when teachers send me, when my kids were younger, a pre-parent teacher conference email. Like, this is so you wouldn't go in there cold, like, and be surprised. Like, this is what's going on. And I do think it's important that parents get involved and kind of understand what the school is going through, what changes are happening with the school, whether it's you join a parent teacher organization or you get into a school community council or something, but try to be involved, and then you're going to have a better understanding of what is going on with the school, what might be affecting the teachers. I think having a student folder is important. That somewhere where your teacher puts stuff that, okay, this is what's going on, so you can kind of understand that what's going on with your kiddo. A phone call, a text message, an email, all those things. Like I said, that communication that we have, but having all those tools in my parent toolbox that I can use from time to time. I think it's important that parents have a list of questions and they're not always and you can get this up on our site again, that Parenting for School Success site, but, like, what is my child doing well? What progress have you seen? How does that compare to other children? So having your list of questions, because sometimes it's like going to the doctor's office and you're like, I forgot to ask this. But when you have all your questions kind of set up ahead of time and we give those to you up there at the site, you'll be ready as a parent when you talk to your teachers to be able to get some of the information you need. Amber, what are your thoughts on, this whole ideal of connecting with the school and
Yeah,
parents?
I just think it's important to remember the common goal, right? We all want that child to be successful both at home and at school. And, the kids spend so much of their time at school and so much of their time at home, and we're both experts in this child in different contexts. So, how can we bring those strengths for this child to the forefront and help them be successful in both contexts? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So what about those busier parents? Maybe they're busy with their job, they're busy with coaching sports teams, and oftentimes busy with multiple children. How do we help them support and contribute to their child's well-being at school? Courtney?
Sure. I was going to see if we could hear from Amber or Bridget first. I would love to hear from
Oh,
Bridget. Can I pass the ball and you pass it back to me? Hear it from that parenting side. I'd love to hear what you have.
Sure. Well, I like to play a game with myself called I Can. I can get involved. And
Okay.
so I just kind of start making a list and see what's going on with the school about things that I can get involved with, whether it be in the classroom, the school library, things that are happening in the school. Can I get involved? And I just, no, I can't. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. And how much I can do because I am a busy a parent and I used to like work at night and those kind of things and travel around the country. So I was I really had to pick those opportunities and stick to them. And I made a point of attending parent nights and child performances, and not letting anything interfere with that, especially when I couldn't be as involved as I wanted to be. So I know that it's hard to be a parent nowadays because usually both parents are working and it's hard, but we have to make the time and we have to look for the I cans in our lives that where we can get involved. That kind of answer your question, Courtney, is from a parent point of view.
Absolutely. I love it. And we too are a busy family raising our 15-year-old. And I find that, like you said, going to any of the things that you can, I think it's important as a parent to get to what you are able to do. And then just let the teachers know. If not, send out an email and say, hey, we won't be able to attend the parent teacher conference on that time. Say, is there another time that we can attend, or how can I get that information? And that just lets the school know as well that you are here, you are trying to support. This really is that hurdle, and allows for that information to get through. Another thing that we're big on in our house, because of course our poor daughter has two former educators, and so something what we're big on is at home is that we support teachers. We're very big on your teacher is the boss in that space and place, and what they say goes. And so it's important to have that view and communicate that with our children. And that if we have questions for the teachers of why maybe something went down, to direct it straight to there. So that way our child does continue that respect and is able to put their best foot forward. And I know that that's not, maybe doesn't seem like it's answering the question as a busy family, but I think that that's one way that we communicate that involvement and investment with our child, even when there aren't school events. Amber.
Yeah, Bridget, I like the idea of the I can list. And then just being okay with that. I know that families are so busy, they have so much going on. And I know that I have a lot of families come in wishing that they could do more. And it's okay to give yourself grace. You're doing the best that you can with what you've got and your level of involvement, as long as there's some frequent communication with the school, letting them know, like you said, Courtney, being flexible, trying to find ways to involve yourself, even if it doesn't fit the exact structure that maybe was provided, right? Just getting creative with your involvement, and then being okay if that's all we can do.
Yeah. We just have a few more questions here for our experts. So if you're watching live and you have a question related to the October behavior slump, make sure you leave it in the comments so we have time to answer. Amber, the next question is definitely for you. We talked earlier about the signs of burnout, but I want to know from a behavioral health perspective, what are some warning signs that a child might be slipping into a behavior slump in October or maybe any other time of the year too?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I bring it back to it's so individualized, but any changes to your kid's typical mood, typical behavior, typical performance, teenagers, maybe they're starting to sleep in a little bit more. They're starting to really struggle to get up out of bed. Maybe that's one sign. Maybe they're hiding out I know teenagers are already hiding out in their rooms all the time, but maybe they're hiding out a little bit more, withdrawing from their friends, things like that. Littler kids, maybe it's that we're seeing some of those increases in those externalizing behaviors. They're starting to be a little bit more emotional, a little more defiant. That might be some signs. And then, I think that particularly when kids are starting to demonstrate some of those changes, the message that we like to hit home with families is creating some time giving them some one-on-one time as much as we can. The usual recommendation is if you could just dedicate 5 minutes to your child every day, helping them feel seen and heard and loved. Just be there in it with them, whatever they want to be doing. Let's say that they're putting some Legos together, or they're coloring, or they're drawing, helping them to see all of the good qualities in themselves. Man, you are creative. Oh, you're such a good problem solver. And that builds up that self-esteem and confidence, that resilience that they can handle hard things.
Well said. Well said. Bridget, what can parents do every morning to set their child up for a successful day at school?
Having a good night routine. I think it's important. Your morning will go crashing down if your night routine is really bad. So I think it's very important that in the morning, try to make it this a positive, enjoyable time where you have a nice time interacting with each other, and a nice breakfast that the children can have before they go off to school, because we don't want them to be hungry while they're in school. But you can only get to that point when your nighttime routine is working well. And so I would say having set routine. Homework happens at this time, at this place. It is very routine. We look in backpacks and check that everything is there, and we put it at the door so we're not looking for it in the morning. We set out clothes. We do our hygiene at night so we don't have to rush in the morning to do those kind of things. And we have a sleep routine. Don't start eating, drinking lots of water, or watching technology, because all those things wake up the brain, wake up the body at a time when they should be going to sleep. So I think that parents who don't have routines at night really struggle in the morning. And at least been my experience over these decades of talking to parents, and or maybe setting expectations in the morning that are too much, like, let's do all these things. Let's not and say we didn't. That's what I would suggest. Let's just keep it calm, get the kids to school, make sure they're fed, they're in a positive headset, and then you push them toward their school, and not create more chaos in the morning for yourselves. What are your thoughts on this, Amber?
Oh, I love that. I think that in the morning it can be such a structured time of, okay, let's get up and brush teeth and get dressed and breakfast, right? And if I think about how I like to wake up in the morning, it's not necessarily following a ton of instructions right away. And so if we can think about ways that we can really praise our kids and catch them being good in the morning. Thanks for brushing your teeth without having to be asked. We can start that train or that snowball of praise right away in the morning. And then something that I've been kind of toying with families in my office is the idea of, some positive affirmations or praise right away when we wake up in the morning. And so if it's parents waking up their kiddos and saying, okay, today is going to be such a good day, buddy. You are so kind and you are so smart and you are such a good big brother, right? Now, what do you think? And then, handing it off to them to say some affirmations. And then we can get into all right, brush teeth and get ready. But helping a kid feel good about themselves the first thing in the morning. So we set our day off right. And then, of course, Bridget, sleep. Yes, all of the sleep.
Yeah, that's awesome, Bridget. I love it. You said it starts with a good night. Good morning starts with a good night. So I once had a friend who said, oh my goodness, my daughter in the morning when she's picking out clothes changes her mind 5 times. I'm like, oh no, that's so risky. We don't do that. At my home, we pick out clothes at night. So we've always had those routines are so important. And what we know is every child is different, like Amber said. And so some children can pick out their clothes in the morning and it's just fine. We have found in our home that is not going to lead to a good morning. So routines are important. It's important to get your child's input with those routines. What worked for you? Some children really do benefit from that visual schedule. We see that in the classroom and we see that at home. And so even having a visual schedule, when our daughter was little, we had, that character from Mr. Rogers, like the tiger, I think. So we had him doing all of those get ready routines around our house. And even now we have just word lists just there in case one needs to reference it in the morning. It was the agreed upon routine that works for our child. So some kids benefit from that and others don't. So we just provide the support that we need, but that our child needs. But having that really clear structure is awesome. And one of the best things that I ever learned, so I'm so glad I work for Boys Town, is from our parenting workshop, is that if a child has a rough morning, give the school a heads up. It is such a good practice. So let the educators know because they can get in there and help your child have a successful day at school. It's a really good tool to use.
Yes, great tip. All right, we have 2 more questions here on our list. What can parents do we just talked about that. I was reading the wrong line. How can parents keep their children accountable when it comes to completing school projects or doing their homework each night? Bridget?
I think it's important to, provide again that emotional support, to provide the structure that kids can be able to tackle their assignments, to provide incentives that motivate kids to want to follow through on those assignments. Of course, the space, there's always a place in my household uh, for everybody for that matter, where you quiet down the house. There's no technology there. It's a place where we're going to read, we're going to play chess, we're going to use our minds. It's the same place, the same time every night. Even if you don't have homework in my household, you're going to use your brain so you can understand that studying is not a chore. It's not this terrible thing that I have to do. It's part of my life. It's part of who I am. I always want to learn, and I want my children to understand that learning is a good thing, not a chore. So creating that environment where learning is a good thing and that you support that, encourage that learning, so the kids will want to follow through on their homework. Courtney, what are your thoughts on this? And from a teacher's point of view, what can we parents do better to help their kids get their homework done?
Yeah, absolutely. A space and a place and checking in with kids. Hey, do you have any homework? With younger families or with younger kiddos, a lot of times there's a planner that maybe needs to be signed. That's a great opportunity for you to take a look at what's in their day and connect. Oh, hey, how did that go? It looks like you had we've got a test coming up tomorrow. How do you feel prepared? What have you done? Just asking some questions. Also, equipping our children to know that they can do hard things. There are assignments that might be difficult. And so to have that empathy, that emotional support, that it's hard and you can do it. And it's okay as a parent if you're like, well, I do not know how to do that assignment. That's okay. Empower your child to be able to problem solve those issues on their own. If they need to email a teacher, make sure you're helping them create that email that's going to be a respectful email to get the help that they need. Or you can help them find their notes. So it's okay if you don't know the answers, but letting them know and supporting them and them being able to do hard things and get the help that they need.
Yeah.
Amber.
Yeah, I would just add that, some of those skills like planning and organization and breaking down bigger assignments to being more manageable assignments, that's all stuff that has to be modeled and taught at home. Adults, we have a hard time with major projects. And so if we can already help our kiddos learn how to break them down, I think also putting up deadlines and maybe smaller deadlines for those larger projects on the family calendar so that it helps with that accountability, or posting some of the deadlines where we can all see them and be reminded of them, that can be helpful too. And then reminding to reward yourself along the way. So maybe it's after you get this amount of homework done, let's take a brain break, and what can we do that can re-energize us to help us move forward with the rest of the work.
Right, in our Boys Town Common Sense Parenting book, there's a whole chapter on school success that points to all the things that Amber is saying. So I'm so excited about that. Hope you guys look that book up because it could really help you kind of answer some of those issues with school and lots of other things that parents face on a daily basis.
Yes, we'll make sure to link that for sure. Okay, Courtney, last question for you here is, how can teachers maintain a positive classroom culture even when behavior issues increase?
That's a great question. I think first it starts with mindset. Positive mindset is one of those things that you can't see, except that you can, because it comes out. So starting with that positive mindset, like you said, Amber, those affirmations, even to yourself as a teacher, I think that mindset of, okay, if there's something that goes wrong, I know what to do. I have a plan. Additionally, I think it goes back to that teaching. All right, if their students are having negative behaviors in this area, or a routine, or gosh, that after lunchtime, then dial it back and think, well, where is that issue? What can I teach to help prevent this in the future for that long term, smoothing that out to teach kids what they need to do to be successful. And then also catching them being good, finding those opportunities to praise and making sure that there's more praise than correction. One of the things that helps me, and each of us, have our own strategies that kind of help us stay cool and calm as a teacher in a classroom. One thing that helps me is when there's an issue with a behavior, I'm like, whoa, whew, okay, let's see if I can handle this. It helps me to then turn around and find somebody doing something well. And it helps reframe my thinking of not everything is terrible. The entire classroom is not on fire. This is a moment I can address this and I can find all of the good things here. And that helps also communicate to students that they're okay. They're safe. A little behavior here, my teacher's got it. My teacher's the captain of this ship, and we're all going to keep learning. And those are some of the strategies that we suggest to educators. Anybody else?
Well, I was going to say, when here on the Boys Town campus, we have schools. And when you walk into our Boys Town schools, you'll see very engaged teachers. I don't see teachers sitting behind a desk. They're in the room, they're interacting with kids. Their kids are smiling, teachers are smiling. It almost creates that headset that Courtney was talking about. When people are smiling, when you're using this praise, it creates that positive headset. So we use it a lot so that room is more positive, more engaged. I really believe in everything that you're saying, Courtney, because I've seen it, in action, right?
Yeah. Well, to wrap up, if someone watching wants to get in touch with any of you, maybe come visit you at the clinic, Amber, or get in touch with training to bring it into their schools, maybe find out how to attend a common sense parenting class, how can we do that? Bridget?
Well, easy.
Yeah.
Come to our parenting.org site. Come to the boystown.org site. You can find all of us there. And, just do the search for us. You can do it that way. Definitely, you put all those links there. But we have classes going on all the time that parents can register for. And we try to talk about the behavioral health clinic. And if parents have questions about, education, how to link to those other things. And I'm sure these ladies as well. But Courtney, how can people get in contact with you guys, teachers?
Absolutely. Our website is liftwithboystown.org. And when you go on there, you can get a hold of us. There's a place to ask questions. Additionally, there are resources. We've talked a lot about skills to teach kids, and there are some free lesson plans on there. And so that's a really great place to reach us, lipwithboystown.org.
Great.
Yeah. And then Amber, do we need a referral for the clinic, or how does that work?
Yeah, so talk to your Boys Town pediatrician for a referral over to our clinic. Otherwise, you can check us out at the Center for Behavioral Health website on the Boys Town website. And then, yes, Bridget, we're constantly referring for the Common Sense parenting classes. So, yeah.
They're great. They're great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, you three, for joining us on this topic. It was really insightful to hear it from all the different angles, all coming together to do what we do best, which is help children and families. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Make sure to catch us next month. And if there's any other live topics you would like us to discuss, go ahead and send us a message. And we're always looking for new topics. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.